Okay, I have got 7 o'clock, so I will call this meeting to order and mute the panel and ask everyone to join me in the pledge to the flag. No stink bugs on it today, I just checked. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. We have 14 attendees with us so far. I think they're still adding at a pretty good pace, but we're glad to see everybody here tonight. Thanks for joining us. We have 4 public hearings tonight first on the agenda. The first 5 public hearings. The first 4 are on local laws that I announced at our last meeting. And I hope those will go fairly quickly. There weren't any comments last time, and I don't expect a whole lot. And then the 5th one is on the budget. So let's move right into those. And I will open the public hearing on local law number 3 of 2021. This law simply revises our purchasing law to bring it into compliance with the new purchasing policy that we passed last year. So this change in the law makes those 2 things agree with each other. So let me just bring up the attendees and see if there are any hands, if anybody wishes to speak. All right, we're up to 17 attendees now. Welcome to the 3 who joined since I last checked. And I don't see any hands, so last call. Any public comments on local law number 3, our purchasing policy? All right, hearing no comments, I will close the public hearing. And next, I'll open the public hearing on local law number 4 of 2021. This law simply takes the amount of the security deposit and the amount of liability coverage required for groups using the Kelly Park Pavilion. It takes those dollar amounts out of the law and moves them to our fee schedule. As regular attendees know, we've been doing that consistently with all of the laws, so that we don't have to change the local law and go through the State Department every time we want to change a fee on something. So that's what local law number 4 does. I will open that public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak. Raise your hand. And I see no hands on that one either. Last call. All right, hearing no public comments on local law number 4, I will close that public hearing and open the public hearing on local law number 5. Local law number 5 takes the specific schedule for yard waste pickup out of the law and adds a provision that the mayor can set the schedule every year for yard waste pickup for that season. And I'll open that for any public comment now. Oops. Everybody disappeared for a minute. I had to find you, bring you back. I don't see any hands on that one either. Nope. So hearing no public comment on local law number 5, excuse me, I will close that public hearing and open the public hearing on local law number 6. Local law number 6 allows the fire department officers to be determined by the fire department bylaws unless directed otherwise by the board. Prior to this change, the local law was not consistent with what either of the fire departments do, and the fire departments don't do exactly the same thing. So this will make the local law agree with what both of the fire departments do, and it will allow them to change their officers as long as it's consistent with their bylaws and not objected to by the board. So I'll open local law number 6 for public comment and look for any raised hands. And seeing no hands, last call. All right, hearing no public comments on local law number 6 either. Question for our attorney. I probably should have put all 4 of these on the agenda for approval tonight, right? So maybe we can do that under other business.
Correct. Yep. You need to vote on those.
All right, we'll move on now, excuse me, to the public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 21-22. As I mentioned last time, I'm very pleased with this draft proposed budget. The treasurer and I have been working hard on it since January. It does stay under the New York State tax cap. It continues the increased levels of paving and equipment replacement that we started with last year's budget. It allocates money for structural and facade work at the Village Hall and for replacement of the floor at the Union Fire Company. It adds 2 new positions in the Department of Public Works, a full-time administrator in the Village Hall, and a part-time secretary for the Building Department, Planning Board, and Zoning Board. And I'll ask the treasurer if she has anything that she wants to add before we open up to the public.
I don't have any major announcements or changes with the tentative budget that's presented. I will say that it is a $5.28 per thousand for the town of Milton and a $5.23 per thousand for the town of Ballston, which stays pretty much in line with how it was filed last year's budget.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will open the floor for public comments on the proposed budget. And I see no raised hands. Last call. Any public comment on the proposed budget? All right. Thank you very much. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on the budget. And I will note for members of the public who might be interested that we have a special meeting next week, a week from tonight at 7 o'clock. And the sole topic of that meeting will be the budget. The board will discuss any issues it wishes to discuss about the budget. And we are scheduled to vote on the final version of the budget the following week, which I believe is the 26th, Monday night, same time. So next week, all budget all the time, and 26th will be the final vote. Moving on with the agenda, the next item of business is minutes.
Mayor.
Yes.
I had a question, sorry. I don't know if it's too late. Is it possible to keep the public hearing open for a few days, allow people to provide more input by email or mail?
Well, people can certainly send email or whatever they want at any time.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So there's still opportunity to provide input.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And there will be public comment at our next meeting also next week. And I guess that'll be it. So they've got tonight all week for the next week, and then another opportunity a week from tonight. So were there any corrections or additions to the minutes of our regular meeting of March 22nd? Hearing none, could I have a motion that they be approved as submitted?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Raymond. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by trustee Cormos. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Those minutes are approved.
I just noticed I'd signed in under Christine, and so I'm labeled as Christine Fitzpatrick.
Ah, so you are.
Larry, Larry,
Yes.
Ben has
Yes.
to abstain from those
Yeah.
minutes. He was not at that meeting.
I was just gonna say that myself. Thank you.
Okay. Were there any corrections or additions to the minutes of our organizational meeting held on April 5th, a whole week ago? Nice job, Madam Clerk, getting those minutes ready so quickly.
Thank you.
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, could I have a motion that they be approved as submitted?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Fitzpatrick. Is there a second?
No,
I mean-
trustee Cormos,
It
mislabeled.
was trustee Fitzpatrick, as you just pointed out. All right, motion by trustee Corm,
I'll second.
second by trustee Baskin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Those minutes are approved. I'm going to take just 1 second here to rename trustee Cormos, so I'll quit calling her trustee Fitzpatrick.
Hopefully that doesn't change both of them.
Nope,
Ah, good. Thank
there you go. All right, the next item of business tonight is mayor announcements, and I have a handful tonight. I'm very pleased to announce, because I know this has been a concern, not only for me, but also for the other board members, that as of today, the Department of Public Works has cleared more than 50% of the water meter readings that have missed, water meter accounts that have missed 2 or more readings. So
Wonderful.
that's hundreds of accounts that have been cleared. That represents a tremendous effort by the Department of Public Works. I asked them to make that tremendous effort after we deemed that it was safe for them to go into people's houses again. And it's only been about a month and they've cleared half of the list. So hopefully we'll get the rest of them done in another month or so and have that done with, which would be wonderful. Next, I received a letter of resignation from Robert Mancini. You may recall that he was our most recent hire in the Department of Public Works. The job ad has already been posted. Applications are already coming in at a pretty good clip. And potentially we can use this same applicant pool for the new positions that are in the budget also, assuming that those positions are approved and assuming that the qualified candidates exist in this pool. I'm also very happy to announce that I received a receipt from the New York State Department of Budget for submitting our police reform plan. So that has been officially submitted to the state before the April 1st deadline, and the state's not going to take any money away from us. Next, I received a request that the village opt out of the New York State cannabis law. That law allows municipalities to opt out of allowing retail dispensaries in their municipalities, subject to permissive referendum. We have until December 31st if we wish to take such action. And I will put this item on our next regular meeting agenda as a discussion item. However, I would point out that the state law, in addition to a 9% state and 1% county sales tax, also specifically adds an additional 3% sales tax to the locality where the facility is located. So if we did decide to opt out, that would potentially cost us a fair amount of income. Plus, the business could simply locate 1 mile in any direction and be outside the village and not be covered by anything we do anyway. But I'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, and people can have time to look at the law and think about the issues. Next, I want to report an unfortunate incident of vandalism at the Kelly Park Playground. It included the destruction of property, and it included spray painting racist symbols and words on the fence. And we were very disappointed and displeased to see that. The graffiti has been painted over this first thing this morning by DPW. But I would ask residents to keep an eye out and to report any suspicious behavior that you see going on down in Kelly Park directly to the Ballston Spa Police Department. They are investigating this incident. And it's possible we may have something on the surveillance cameras, which they haven't looked at yet. But it would be really good if we could see something like that going on and report it right away and let the police respond immediately. So if you drive by Kelly Park, especially in the evenings after it's closed, please take a second to look over there and see if you see anything going on.
Larry?
Yes.
Yeah, has there been considerations improving the lighting over there potentially? You know, I know there is a few lights there, but that's pretty dimly lit. I imagine if there was more lighting, that might be a discouragement for folks to go over there at night and vandalize it.
Yeah, there are lights on the site, but I don't think there are any on the back. That would incur a cost to the village to install new lights, and nobody's investigated that possibility.
Yeah,
But if you want to look into it, you're certainly welcome to.
I think it may be something to, consider for next year's budget. And also with better lighting, than if you do have a camera on, you're gonna see more detail.
Okay. And lastly, I received a complaint, which I forwarded to the board, and it's on the agenda later tonight for discussion, about increasing incidents of dog fecal matter being left on sidewalks and rights of way. So we'll discuss that complaint later on tonight during the meeting. And that's it for announcements tonight. That brings us to old business. The first item of old business is to set a fee for failure to return water meter cards. We changed the local law on water last year and added a fee to the law, but we didn't add a specific amount because that's supposed to go in the fee schedule now, and we couldn't put it in the fee schedule until the state accepted the local law. So that has happened now. The state has accepted the local law, and we now need to come up with the fee. The last time we discussed it, there was discussion of a $50 fee. There was discussion of a $100 fee. I think those were the two figures that were mentioned in that discussion. I left a blank in this motion tonight. Anybody want to discuss the fee before we make a motion, or does somebody want to make a motion to add a fee to the fee schedule for failure to return the meter cards in the amount of, and you fill in the blank?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, well, what goes in the blank?
Well, I know that we had discussion. I think that to get people's attention, I think $100 fee would certainly motivate people to turn in their cards. I do think, didn't we have a caveat in the code that it could be waived by you, Larry, at your discretion?
Yes. On written
So-
request from the resident explaining the reason why it was missed. Yep.
Right, so
All
if
right, we have a
there's,
motion from trustee Lehman to add to the fee schedule a fee for failure to return water meter cards in the amount of $100. Is there a second?
Mayor, I was just thinking we should add a time frame, failure to return water meters by in what amount of time?
Yeah, that's in the law.
Oh, it is?
30 days,
I believe it's
30 days.
30 days.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's specified in the law. The law just doesn't say what the fee is.
Well,
Did we get a
uh,
second on the motion?
I have a
No.
comment, but we can second
You have
first.
to second it first and then discuss it.
All right, if there's no second to the motion,
Christine, you're muted.
I don't know how that happened. Anyway, I'll second it.
okay. Second by trustee Fitzpatrick. Discussion.
I don't know. I think maybe start out with a $50 fee and see if that's enough to incent people, and then we can always move it up if we still find that people aren't returning their meter cards.
Okay, other discussion.
I would agree. I think 100 sounds very steep, especially compared to the water bill itself. It's a very high percent. So I would,
well, I guess in discussion, what's an average water bill for a period of time?
$100 for 6 months.
$100.
Yeah.
So it's doubling the water bill. I guess my thoughts are, there people out there that are gonna pay the fine because their water bill is more than 1.5 times. So if you put a 50 on it and they really would have a water bill of 175, of course they're gonna pay the fee. And then we don't get the data we require to get a proper inventory on our water usage. So I mean, my thoughts are the fee has to be to a point where it'd be well beyond what anybody would use during that period.
Well, they're going to get charged for their minimum usage anyway, so they'll still get charged the $100, and then this would be on top of it for not returning the card. So they are.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you're using $175 worth of water,
Yeah.
that's a deal.
Well, can we do an escalation? In other words, if you don't return it the next cycle, but then if you are a repeat offender, it goes up?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe the council does. Did we write that local law so that the fee is applied separately each cycle? Or did we write it so that? the second
No,
time-
I know we discussed this as a matter of trying to keep the fee consistent, and I guess easier on me because it is a manual fee that I have to impose on each account. So we did settle for a flat rate fee for any consecutive amount or any one-time fee or estimates on the account.
Yeah, I keeping track of that,
Yeah,
that's,
you're right.
we're gonna lose money on the administration of that.
We can split the difference and charge 75.
Again, I'm not necessarily married to the 100. We can do 50 if you want. I'm just saying that if you put it at a certain range, it certainly will motivate people to hand in their water cards.
I think $50 is motivating. And people I know.
Okay.
Let's,
All right, I can do that, and then 50 is good, and then if it's not working, one of the reasons, if we think people are gaming it, which hope to God they won't. But then we, because it's outside the law, we can change it. We can have another discussion and change it. So I can do 50.
There are two possible courses of action at this point. We can either vote on the motion as made with a fee of $100, or somebody can make a motion to amend the motion to a $50 fee at the board's pleasure.
I'll make a motion to amend the,
Motion to amend to a $50 fee by trustee Baskin. Is there a second to that motion?
Second,
Second by trustee Cormos. Discussion on the motion to amend. All in favor of amending the fee in the amount of $50, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. The amendment passes. The motion now reads, add to the fee schedule a fee for failure to return water meter cards in the amount of $50. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item of old business is to continue our discussion of the Front Street closure situation for this summer. As everybody knows, last summer we closed Front
Right.
Street on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, put up barricades.
Larry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just follow up with that last piece? Can we do some special kind of promotion to let people know there's going to be this fine? Like, it's not on the website or the email letter, but just make an effort to let people know.
It
Yep.
will also be posted on the meter cards that get submitted.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
great.
Yeah.
All right, good. That's good. Thank
We
you.
should have mentioned that was part of the discussion when we had this
Okay.
the first time.
All
Sorry.
right, sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So last summer we closed it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but last summer there was an executive order in place that allowed us to apply to the state liquor board for for alcohol to be served on public property. That executive order has now expired and is no longer in effect. So at our last meeting, the board asked me to speak with the restaurant owners and see if it would be beneficial to them to be able to serve food, even if they couldn't serve alcohol. And the answer was yes. They would still like to be able to add the additional capacity. And it was their opinion, and I think mine as well, that because they own the sidewalks, they can probably serve alcohol on the sidewalks. They just can't serve it in the street.
Mhm.
So the tables that they chose to put in the parking lanes, if they chose to do that, would not be able to be served alcohol. But the tables on the sidewalk, I think, would be.
I think
So having said that, the business owners would like to see us go ahead with the closure again, even with the change in conditions. However, they also requested that we do it for the whole summer instead of just 3 nights a week. And their point was, number one, it would help them on other nights, but number two, it would save us the cost, which was not too terribly high, but nevertheless a considerable cost of having DPW put those barriers out and take them back in 6 times a week for the whole summer. So they said if you put up more permanent barriers and didn't have to take them down all the time, then it would help the businesses and save you money. If that's something that we're interested in considering, I think we need to canvass the residents and the businesses in that block, send them each a letter and ask them what impacts that would have on their dwellings and business places. I know we had some comments last summer about inconveniences for senior citizens with limited mobility and inconvenience for other businesses that rely on automobile traffic. So up to the board, open discussion, looking for direction.
If I may, this is after 4 in the afternoon, did we do it? And is that the consideration that it would be 4 in the afternoon that it would be closed?
No,
Not,
No,
No,
no. It would
permanently.
be from, May 1st or June 1st or whatever the start date is until September 1st or October 1st, whatever the end date is.
I would think, I mean, we had part of the street completely closed, and I think on Thursdays we had that one way. I would propose that, we allow the one-way traffic to go through there if it is permanently closed. And, for the ability of, folks to utilize parking spaces, maybe if there are no, tables and barriers set up in that area, because I think you're gonna get some complaints about, closing off that many parking spaces permanently.
yeah,
That's the real issue. And also being able to, go down Front Street all the way. So maybe some sort of compromise on those two issues, where you could have a one-way lane and allow parking, if social club doesn't set up in the street, then there's a parking space there, you can use it. Or they post something to say, no parking after 6 p.m. or something like that, so that they can use the space then. So I don't know, just
So you're talking about the whole length of Front Street or just that first section to that little one-way downhill?
I'm thinking all the way through.
so
Because
you're
that,
thinking of from Milton to,
well,
From Low to,
the memorial, I mean, the statue, we had one way, I think, right?
you could go one way around it, yeah.
And just have one way, then it went one way half the block because of the farmer's market. We changed that from the original plan. Just have one way go all the way through to Bath Street. And that would allow movement, when, they're not gonna set up the tables, likely for next door kitchen, social club and Sunset, at 8 a.m. in the morning, and somebody, or at 11 a.m. for many of the restaurants. So it's only Iron Roost that's open really for eating during lunch hours, and it still would allow people to go through and potentially use parking spaces if they're available. So just
I
a thought,
guess,
a way to sort of compromise between the two. I think having the barriers up and down is, it's a lot on DPW, not just the cost, but their time.
well, I would have to say the barriers are probably not that difficult for DPW. I do think moving tables in and out of the street is probably more difficult for the restaurant owners, and I would imagine that's the reason they want the permanency. I would agree with Liz that maintaining some sort of traffic flow, a one-way corridor through there would, if we're going to make it permanent. The other issue I see is most restaurants are closed Sunday, Monday. If I was a resident on Ballston Spa or another business owner who relied on vehicle traffic, it would be exasperating to know that the restaurants are closed and the parking couldn't be used when they're not utilizing the space. So I guess my thoughts on that, I don't know if you can do it the entire week, or does it make sense because you're basically closing off something that isn't going to get used a couple days a week. So
That's a good point, Sean, about, Sunday and Monday. I also think that it's very nice for the restaurants, but anybody else in there, and I know that there's a boutique in there that has opened new. I mean, that cutting off the parking and is that's, I think, going to be a problem for others, in addition to other businesses, in addition to the residents. And I can't say off the top of my head how many other businesses there are. I also think for safety to Liz's point, which I think is, having a one-way, don't we, for health and safety, public safety, have to have something that goes down that street?
It has to be wide enough. It has to be mobile enough for the fire
Yeah.
company to move it to get fire trucks in and out.
And the fire trucks can go either way, right? They don't have to abide by
Yeah.
one, right? Okay.
And the
We need
width
Corridor open.
central corridor last year was wide enough for fire, for emergency vehicles. It seems to me, though, that if we're going to talk about allowing traffic and parking, we might as well just tell the restaurants they can't use the street and leave the street open. Then the only concern we would have to worry about was what do we do for pedestrian access past the places that are using the sidewalk?
Right.
But we wouldn't have to do anything with closing the street.
Well, when I was in Boston, they had Charles Street, with a lot of eateries, and they put the tables in the parking spaces and then allowed the pedestrian traffic, on the sidewalk. So and they had the barriers up and it was permanent. They didn't.
Yeah, except for they can't serve alcohol in the street and they can on the sidewalk. So
Yeah, I know.
Well,
So,
if you have a one-way street, won't you still also have room for a sidewalk for pedestrian passage if you block it off?
yeah.
If you have a barrier with the cars?
Yeah, should.
well, not in allow parking.
Well, maybe there's no
No.
parking.
This is one topic that the transportation folks, VHB, promised to take a look at. I don't know if we can, get their expertise a little earlier than, and see, if they've got some ideas.
I like the idea of surveying the businesses.
Yeah,
that's for
well,
sure.
and the residents too, surveying the businesses and the residents.
But
The
it would
area, sorry.
be better to show them an alternative or two.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, have, I can request VHB to sketch out, they did that actually for the complete streets a little bit, to sketch out some options for, a permanent solution that would still allow, movement through the area and, save some of the parking spaces. They could take a look at it and then we could give the residents and the businesses something concrete to look at. Because I think conceptually, folks are going to say, well, you're taking away something from me who live there, and businesses who aren't restaurants, and the restaurants saying, well, we need this space to help recover from, the effects of the pandemic. So just a
How
thought.
quickly can you get those sketches done, Liz?
Well, I can talk, I'll send them an email and say, we are looking, we've had a request to make this permanent. Can you, it's going to be part of their scope of work anyways. Can you give us some options? Just a sketch that shows where traffic is and where parking is, not a detailed design changing anything, just a way to move traffic and have parking in that area and allow the restaurants more space. That would be the goal. And what would they come up with a solution to do that?
Of course, the other thing is, I know there's been discussion about making this a permanent thing, a pedestrian mall type of thing with cobblestones and closed to traffic permanently year round, foot traffic only. That we would need to send a letter out to everybody about also. But a lot of people suggested that last summer because they liked the setup so much.
Well, that could be an option,
And we need to get that letter out fairly quickly if we're planning to start doing something, sometime in May or.
Right. Well, if we can think of it as a pilot, if whatever we do.
Yeah.
Before we do
Yeah,
something permanent.
Good
that's a
plan.
good idea, Ben. Maybe this is an experiment and to what if it was permanently closed off, and maybe try, whatever setup and say, we're going to try this for 60 days and just see what the utilization is. You may find out that the restaurants say, you know what, we're not really just turning that much business on the streets because we can't serve alcohol. So in theory, that, you know, it may not be cost effective to them to have them out there. And if so, we change the plan. If it seems to be working, and we don't have a lot of complaints about it, we can move forward. It'll be a good test to see whether or not that would be feasible in the long term.
The area in front of the post office is not affected, right?
No, no, it's from Low Street. It's from the Civil War soldier
Right.
south to, or I'm sorry, west.
West,
And I think that that's a great idea. The picture is going to be invaluable because you can say to people, I'm going to close such and such. They really are going to need a picture.
And
So I
then
think that's a great idea.
Yeah, along with the picture though, part of the options are all
Right,
week,
sure.
5 days a week, half a
Right.
day, all day. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the idea of, you know, a temporary change, and that's what they did up in Saratoga when they were looking at the bike lanes. They laid it out and closed that to a one-way street and let it stay that way for a couple of weeks and then got feedback. So since we can do it with just moving barriers and signs around, I think it's a great opportunity to try, you know, talk to VHB, see what they think, and then just try it.
Mhm.
And then if people hate it, you know, they experience it, or maybe they say, oh, this isn't so bad. And, you know, the overall feeling is this is a great thing. Because people were saying, as Larry said, they like the idea of a closed, you know, pedestrian only area in the middle of the village.
But I'm sorry, Liz, I'm losing this thread here. So you saying we're not going to give the picture, the
We can, but we can also say this is an experiment. You know, that the village is going to try this for 2 weeks. And then we're going to see the feedback. You know, so.
well,
I think we should survey a little bit.
I do too. I think you're always better off asking people what they think ahead of time.
Mhm.
Always. you
Okay,
know, Because part of
How
what
about
the
this?
negative feeling you may get back is just because they weren't asked. I mean, you don't want to
How
confuse.
about this? How about this moving forward? How about if my office goes ahead and puts out a letter to all the residents and businesses in the affected area, reminding them that we closed the street last year and telling them that we've had requests to do it permanently and asking for their feedback and input. At the same time, Liz then gets the sketches of the various options, maybe by our next regular meeting even, or certainly in the first meeting in May. And we can post those on the website and the Facebook page, and we can have a public comment period specifically dedicated to discussing those options to get people's input then at a public meeting or by email and so forth. And then we ought to, by that point, have feedback from the letter that I send out to the residents and businesses, plus feedback on the drawings for options, and we can make a decision then what we're going to do this summer.
I think it might be better to do it all at once, you know, wait, you know, and see if like, for one, we can get some simple sketches and then send that to all the residents where they, like I said, to have something concrete for them to comment to. Instead of leaving it open, we're going to close the street, you know, they don't know what it means.
Yeah, I'd present it all at once. I might not use the word permanently. Nothing that has to be permanent, but
Close it
Yeah,
seasonally.
well, one more time, we're gonna try it again. See if we like it, we'll keep going.
I'll contact VHB tomorrow and see if they can come up with something for us, and, you know, in the
Yeah.
next week, and then we could send that out to folks.
Yeah, since they already had some ideas, Larry, by the time you're able to get the letter together and all of this stuff, they may actually be able to give you a rough picture.
If this is something I'm gonna have to make hundreds of copies of and send out, then it needs to be black and white.
Okay, no, I think that would be fun. I'll tell them it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to show, you know, what's closed.
Is it something we could post on the website and people give them a link to go look at and that way we wouldn't have to print them all out? We just have to send a letter or an
Yeah.
email and say, hey, check this out.
Could even
Yeah.
send a postcard.
Uh,
And I think most of the residents in that area are younger folks living in the apartments as far as residents. And I think all the businesses have email and, you know, so I think maybe even a postcard, which is inexpensive to, with, you know, directions, go to the village website and,
Yeah, a direct link.
I would do mail.
no,
We found
postcard.
we found this, you know, a lot that, you know, I mean, I would just lay it out with a letter and a picture. I think because then the person has it in their hand, and if they want to react, they can. It's whenever you add a step, like, all right, I'm telling you this, and you should take the responsibility of go looking. I think that's when you add steps, you're less likely to get the input you're looking for. And we've sort of found this in the past, that our best effort is, in terms of due diligence, is probably doing a lot of things by mail.
Well, we're gonna mail to the residents in the certain, you know, those streets.
No, I'm gonna have them hand delivered.
Yeah,
Okay,
that won't be much money. I mean, that's not.
As long as
just
I don't have to
photo-
make color copies.
mhm.
Yeah, that's not expensive.
But we could put
Well,
copies on the
How
website.
many people are we sending it to?
I think it's about 100.
Okay, so folks that don't have a direct connection to Front Street but live in the village aren't going to have any input.
Well, that's why I suggested that it was really two different questions. One is, how would closing the street affect the residents and the businesses on the street? And the other is, what would the residents like to see for the long term?
Yeah, it seems to me that that's why I was suggesting that we do a postcard with a link. So that way everybody goes to the same place and you get the maximum amount of input.
I think
Well,
they hand delivered the notes to the immediate residents and then also put it up on Facebook and on the web page. And you get all the feedback from the rest of the residents.
Right. I
And
think
then
that's a good compromise.
Back, you know,
Yeah, I think-
That's fine. Belt and suspenders.
Yeah, no, listen, yeah, I think that's a good idea. That's a good compromise.
yeah. So I think we'll get a fair amount of feedback.
I think we will too.
All right, so we'll move on then, but Liz will get the sketches, and if we're gonna put them on the website, we can easily put color.
I'll see what they'll produce
Yeah,
quickly, you know.
but if I'm gonna hand distribute the hard copies, then it'll need to be black and white.
Yeah.
And then we'll need to make some decisions based on whenever Liz can get me those sketches. We'll probably need to make a decision maybe at the next board meeting after that stuff all goes out, what we're gonna do starting in May sometime.
Yeah,
Our next meeting is the last week in April. So we don't have a whole lot of more meetings to discuss and think before we make up our minds. All right, thanks for all that input. That's the last item of old business, so we'll move along to new business. First item of new business is budget transfers, which, as I'm sure you noted, now that we're approaching the end of the year and more lines are being fully expended, the budget transfer list gets quite a bit longer. And I can assure you it will continue to be longer between now and the end of the fiscal year in May. Having said that, could I have a motion that the budget transfers be approved?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Fitzpatrick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Raymond. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Budget transfers are approved. Could I have a motion that the Ballston Spa Business and Professional Association be granted permission to conduct concerts in the park at the Iron Spring Park on Thursday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. from July 1st through August 26th? And I note that we have received proof of insurance and a COVID safety plan.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by trustee Baskin. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second by trustee Cormos. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion is approved. Could I have a motion that the Ballston Spa Business and Professional Association be granted permission to conduct free family films outdoors in Wiswall Park if available, with the Iron Spring Park as an alternative site on June 4th, July 2nd, August 6th, and September 3rd at dusk, with rain dates the following day, the day following each date. And once again, we have proof of insurance and a COVID safety plan. Could I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Raymond. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item of new business is to approve an amendment, essentially an extension to the lease agreement between AT&T and the village for a cellular installation, an existing cellular installation on the John Street water tank. This needs a little bit of explanation because it has a complex background story. AT&T has had that installation on the water tank for many years. The prior administration, some years back, 10 or 15 years back, sold several years worth of those lease payments from AT&T to a company called Landmark. And that's why Landmark was listed in the draft lease that I sent out to the board on April 5th, because according to their records, Landmark is still the landlord. That arrangement expires next month in May. And the village will start getting that lease money again, starting in May of 2021. I told Landmark that we would not renew that agreement, much to their disappointment, because it was quite a good deal for them. And I told AT&T to change the landlord in the lease amendment agreement to the village. They told me they would have a revision to me by today, but I didn't get it. But I can assure you that I will not sign it until it says Village of Ballston Spa is the landlord, not Landmark. So with that background story, could I have a motion to approve the amendment to the lease agreement for the AT&T cellular installation on the John Street water tank?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Raymond. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that trustee Cormos?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any discussion?
I'm just concerned that they're paying us the going rate. and, you know, it's competitive because it is a 5-year lease and, you know, are there any, you know, that would be my only concern, that we're getting a fair amount on, you know, the value of mounting on our water tower.
It's very comparable to the fees, the lease fees that are paid to us by the other companies that have cellular installations on village property. And it did go up 10% every 5 years for the last 15 years. And this lease proposes to continue that by continuing to go up 10% every 5 years. So
Any chance we can up the escalation to be every 2 years or something? Yeah, I mean, make it a little bit more attractive for us. You know, just from the standpoint of negotiation.
well,
It's no, you know,
we can certainly ask our attorney, who has nothing better to do, to
Well-
just,
talk to AT&T's attorneys about rates and increased schedules and stuff like that.
Larry, is the escalation rate similar to the other companies?
Yes,
okay,
We're probably not gonna get anything out of it because they're gonna know that too.
okay. Well, it's just, I don't know that much about these contracts. I just want to make sure that the village is getting, you know, a good deal. That's all.
yep, I think we all do, but we have no indication that this is not.
Okay,
You know, I think the only way to find out if there's any flexibility is to haggle with them.
yeah,
And I'm perfectly happy to do that if that's what the board wants to do. But it looked to me like this was a pretty reasonable deal and might not be worth doing that about.
Right.
But that's just one opinion.
if everybody else feels the same way, then that's fine. It's just, that's my nature. It's always like, you know, can you get something better?
How many years is this lease for again?
It's a 5-year lease, renewable twice for additional 5 years each time. Madam Clerk, did we have a motion and a second? I don't remember.
No.
No. All right, so would
Oh,
anybody
yes,
like?
Raymond and Cormos. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the lease agreement with the obvious change that Ballston Spa is the landlord, not landmark.
May I ask what may appear to be a dumb question, but I apologize. With Landmark as the landlord, who was getting the money before?
Landmark.
Well, okay, then we are really ahead of the game because we're going to be getting it now, right?
Correct.
Well,
Unless you want me to
that-
tell support a Landmark, they offered to give us like 170,000 for 15 years worth of rent. I said no.
yeah, I mean, who knows? Yeah, I think that anything long-term is right. But I mean, so it seems to me that we're getting something for 5 years that we weren't getting before. You know, I think, and that's a, you know, very good move on your part, Larry. So I would think that that's, you know, that would be, for me, that's sufficient for my purposes.
Well, for 15 years, lease payments add up to about $375,000. So I didn't think we wanted to sell that for 100 and something.
Good plan.
Well, yeah, it depends on what the net present value is, because time, you know, when you get something 5 or 10 years out, it's not worth the same amount today.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay, any other discussion? Are we ready for a vote? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving the lease amendment, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Since our last meeting, when I announced that we couldn't make the fire department officer appointments because the fire department hadn't had their annual meeting yet. They have had their annual meeting and they have elected the following people, which I would like a motion to ratify at this point. Chief Kevin Crow, First Assistant Chief Mike Bayshore, Second Assistant Chief Colby Crow, Third Assistant Chief Bill Kenny, and Secretary Stanley DeLong. Could I have a motion to ratify those 5 appointments?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Fitzpatrick. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by trustee Cormos. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right?
All opposed, nay. That motion carries. The next item is for discussion only. We passed a law recently moving our election dates from March to November to coincide with general elections and turning those elections over to the County Board of Elections, who handles all the other elections and ballots and so forth. According to NICOM, that action changed our official calendar to December 1st. However, NICOM also recommends another local law changing it to January 1st. They advise that January 1st coincides with everybody else's annual year and budget cycle, and that it also avoids complications with the December election if there were enough issues surrounding a December beginning of the year, if there were enough issues surrounding the November election to cause a delayed canvass. So for those 2 reasons, NICOM is suggesting that we pass another local law changing our official year from December 1st to January 1st. I had a discussion with the treasurer about that the other day, and before we open it up for general discussion, I'd like to give her an opportunity to express her vehement displeasure.
So yes, once I first found out about this, I didn't quite know the extent or the reasoning behind it. So I do appreciate that elaboration, Larry. I did go through a bunch of scenarios in my head of kind of what this would cause in terms of both work and just general, I guess, concerns I have overall. So I'm just going to start listing them off for you. And if you have any, if you want any more discussion on it, please let me know. First and foremost, the work involved would be extremely excruciating and extensive. Larry alerts me that this wouldn't happen for probably another 1 to 1.5 years. That being said, if it does occur, I would have to create a budget that would only consist of this 6-month or 5 or 6 months, depending on what NICOM is suggesting that we turn to. And shortly after we create and impose that budget in that fiscal year, we will then quickly have to turn around and create another budget and fiscal year for the next term to fulfill that full year. Another thing that we did have in place is 1 out of the 2 bonds that the village does have, the consolidation bond that was just done this previous year, was put in place for a payment to be paid out in June, which would obviously coincide with our fiscal year. Changing that fiscal year obviously puts us a little bit in a downfall with cash flow. One of the other issues this creates is re-levying unpaid village utility. We do re-levy this in May for village residents on our June taxes. Pushing this fiscal year back to either December or January will cause an excess delay of recouping that unpaid utilities. The second one kind of coinciding with that is re-levying unpaid village taxes. In November, we do re-levy the unpaid village taxes to the towns, but seeing that our fiscal year would line up to the towns, this would push it back to another year. That being said, it would go into a new fiscal year and creating a budget shortfall, which then we'd have to account for year after year. One of the last few things that it has is general concerns, one of them being the cash flow. Generally, the village has a low cash flow in October, November, and early December. Moving the budget doesn't necessarily make up that slow and that cash flow. It would just, I guess, recoup that cash flow in December or January, depending on when you're deciding to move the fiscal year. And not necessarily at our lowest months. It's never been an issue, the cash flow, because we do receive the re-levy shortly after our February billing, and also CHIPS grant money. So it's never been an issue, but it's not kind of recouping any short falling of cash flow. The other reason is when we moved our voting to the county and the Board of Elections at the county, one of the reasons that we did have in place and we did discuss was the ability for the newly elected candidates to have a say in the budget, and therefore it would eliminate that ability for them to make an educated and valid discussion for the budget. So those were just some of the concerns I had when I was brought up to me late last week.
I was under the understanding that we were just changing the terms of when we got elected, but we would continue on the same budget cycle.
I don't know how you would change fiscal years without changing.
Well, no, but we
We're
wouldn't,
not,
in
yeah,
other words, we wouldn't change our fiscal year. It's just changing when people take office.
yeah, right
that
now, we're doing it,
possible?
I mean, that's my impression as well, Liz. I mean, right now, people take office April 1st.
Mhm.
And our budget is, our new budget begins June 1st. So we're doing it now differently. So I guess I don't understand.
So is this not going to affect the fiscal year?
Well, what I'm asking is, does it have to? I mean, if we
Have to, yeah.
change,
I would hope it doesn't have to. I guess that's why I'm bringing up
Well,
these
that's really
concerns.
my question.
get-
And the other thing that it's gonna, if we change the other, I mean, our collective bargaining agreements
That could also
begin
have an
on
impact
June,
on this
in
too.
June
Yeah.
as well, which is
Well, hang
coming to our-
on. What does the state government, the state legislature has November elections and their budget year is still April 1st.
But
I
their
don't
fiscal year is
understand
the
why
calendar
the
year.
village would be different or the county.
Why do we have to be different?
Yeah.
Yeah, unless somebody can tell that that's required because you change when your village officials take office. I'd say keep all our financials and the fiscal year and all that the same. All we're changing is when people take office. And I don't think it has to line up. In a way, one of the advantages was that, now somebody gets elected and maybe takes off. I mean, I think we can discuss whether they take office December 1st or January 1st, when people actually take office from when they're elected. But I don't see any reason to change any of our fiscal year and all of those practices just because, somebody's taking office at a different point. And say,
Councilor Ferradino, you're the one who spoke with NICOM on our behalf. Do you have anything to add to this discussion? I got the sense that the December 1st change is automatic.
I didn't get the sense about whether it was automatic. We were focused more on just the election itself, not so much the fiscal year.
yeah.
You suppose you could put your head together with Rebecca again and get
Definitely.
clarification
Yep.
on what
Yeah.
flexibility we have available to us?
We
Definitely.
may be required to line up like everybody else and have our budget year be April 1st.
I don't think well, I like the town of Milton, they take office on January 1st, but their fiscal year is not I don't think it's a January 1st fiscal year.
Yeah, it is.
It is?
Yeah,
Okay,
the towns are all on January 1st,
okay.
but I don't know. We could ask the villages that have changed their election date, that did they change their fiscal year?
I don't know if it's a suggestion or not. I just want to make it clear that this is not something that I want to move forward with if it is something that's in the works.
Oh, yeah, and I can think of other things like you do open enrollment in December, you're gonna do, in November and December, you're gonna be doing budget in December, when you only have one meeting scheduled, you're gonna be doing all of this during the holiday season?
No, I'd say
I don't want
the
to.
law that says we have to,
Right,
let's not.
right.
Okay, thank you very much. Our counselor has heard your thoughts and concerns, and just to summarize, what I think I'm hearing is that the board's preference would be not to change anything but the terms of office and leave everything else the same, including our formal year and our fiscal year. And so we'll get the answer to whether we can do that or what our options are if we can't do that. And we'll pick up this discussion again at the next meeting.
Okay, just so I'm clear, one other question, if we did this, if we went to January 1, that means we would have our organizing meeting on New Year's Day?
Or,
Well, you watch football or something?
No, listen, I'm
No,
not
I
gonna be
remember-
here.
It'll be January 2nd.
when in the town of New Scotland, we did it New Year's Day. That's when the officers got sworn in.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm a basketball fan, not a football fan, so.
I knew you were a basketball fan, but I didn't know if it spread to other sports or not. Another item for discussion only tonight is in the process of reading these 200 and whatever water meters in the past month, 3 property owners refused to allow DPW onto their or into their houses to read the meters. Our local law says very clearly that they can't do that DPW is allowed access to the water meters anytime it needs it. But nevertheless, 3 people refused to allow that access. Unfortunately, our village law does not provide a penalty for failure to allow that access. It simply says they are required to allow it. So I'm wondering what the board's wisdom is about what we do with these people who don't allow us access to read their water meters.
Find them.
Well, to do that, we would have to change the local law to say that there is a fine. And then we would have to put a fine in the fee schedule, as we just did for the fine for not returning a meter card. And that's certainly an option.
I guess my thoughts are, was there any feedback as to why?
Yeah, is this somebody with a, good point, Sean?
I did not get any feedback from 2 of the people. I got a very nasty letter from the 3rd one. I don't have it with me. I didn't bring it home. I can't remember if I forwarded it to you or not.
I know.
But there was no strong central argument. Let's just put it that way.
When DPW goes, do they bring the card and give that final option or chance for them to go, for the owner of the property to go and read their own meter?
Oh yeah, this is preceded by a long process, including phone calls and posting notices on their doors at least twice, asking them to read the meter and either call us and tell us what it says, or take a picture of the meter with their phone, or write it down on a piece of paper. And the second one telling them that failure to do that after multiple phone calls and 2 postings will be that DPW has to come by and do it themselves, and that'll be a charge of $100. So yeah, people have been given ample warning and ample requests and many different ways of complying.
Yeah.
So they're already being charged $100 to let them in. At that point, they're going to be charged $100. So if they're not going to let them in, it should be something more than that, probably, right?
Yeah, if there's somebody who's old or infirm or for some other reason physically can't read the meter, all they have to do is let me know, and it's free. But for people who could have read the meter and just didn't,
Yeah, I think that's
if you go out, there's a fee.
it's basically breaking the law, because the meter belongs to us and the code says they should have access to it.
Right, correct.
Yeah, it sounds like
There's no penalty.
it should be double, at least double what the fee is for DPW to go read it. You know, it's a $200 fine if you don't let them in. So,
All right, so this is a two-part process, just like the other thing we did. First, we have to decide if we want to change the law. And then if we do, then we have our attorney do that. And it specifies that there's a fine, but not how much the fine is. And then once the state accepts the
Understood.
law change, then we set the fine.
Mayor,
But-
I want to just, may I interrupt for a minute? I'm looking at the local law and it says the non-reporting fee will be set forth from time to time by resolution of the Board of Trustees. I wonder if you just want to have two non-reporting fees, one where they haven't returned the card, two where they're not allowing somebody to come in, thereby kind of sidestepping the creation of a new local law. You simply, in the fees schedule, have two separate fees, one for non-return of card, one for not allowing you in. It's a creative way, and I'm kind of throwing this out and doing it on the fly, but it could be that our non-reporting fee is actually kind of has a caveat in the fee list itself. It may be a way to get around it.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me too. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I have another concern. If you very properly, Larry, have allowed and explained if somebody's old, infirm, that we can waive the fee or whatever. To be honest with you, when you get somebody who's this adamant, these three people, I'm concerned for our workers. I mean, this could be somebody who's just got, how shall I say, some
Issues.
real authority issues. And so I'm concerned for our workers, and I think maybe, and I don't know if this is an overreach, but they could be accompanied with one of our police officers.
Yes,
For
I
everybody's
think
safety.
good idea. I think that's a very good idea.
yeah, I agree, but I guess in the scenario, they're not allowing them in. Therefore, the DPW can't enter their property. And unless the police have a warrant, they can't enter the property. So I'm not sure if, I guess my point is DPW is not going to read their meter unless they allow them in. And they may not anyways. And if they get fined, they get fined. And they'll end up eventually paying that fine because it gets shifted to their tax obligation. And that may be as far as we can go with it.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking that it might really bring it home that this is a legal issue if one of our member, if when they go for after all of these notices and whatever for the final time, if they went with a police officer. I'm concerned about, you get three people out of 5,400 residents. I'm just concerned for the safety of our workers.
Now, one solution to this is if they had the meter, which could be read from outside the home, this wouldn't even be an issue.
Yes, but that's not what we have. Eventually, we will
That's
have.
what we're installing now.
Yeah, so maybe if the individuals know that they can get a meter they'd have to let DPW in to replace the meter. But then from then on in, they don't have to let them in. Maybe they might be willing to cooperate.
But then for those three people, we set up a system where they're the only ones being read from the outside. Are
No,
we-
we have many outside readers.
All right, well, that's a
All the
possibility.
names and remote reads.
Um,
Okay, so I will ask our attorney to consider her option further and make sure that she thinks it works.
Well,
As
how
that-
much, sorry, how much is an outside meter? I mean, could that be the penalty? You have to pay for an outside meter. Sort of a logical
It's not an outside
consequence.
meter, it's a button
Well,
on the outside
A
of
meter, right, a
there's
meter
a
you can read, right, a meter you can read from the outside. Do we know how much that costs?
It ends up being a couple $100 with labor, installation, and the product.
So you
Yeah.
still need to get inside the house to even install it, right?
Yeah.
I definitely agree. DPW should not be sending one person over. There should always be at least two people if they're going inside someone's house. But I think if it's only 3 people, I think it would be feasible to have a police officer accompany for that small number. We have our own police force. And if they're really ignoring, yeah, I think it makes sense. If you're going into someone's house, there's some risks involved. And also there could be an opportunity for referral to some supportive services. People have mental health issues,
Right.
they have dementia, and potentially, and they may need a referral somewhere to get support if, you know, and I don't know if the police officers trained better than DPW as far as making referrals. I would think they would be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there might be other issues involved with these, with some of these people potentially.
All right, any other comments? Thank you for that input. Last discussion item tonight is the issue of, as the letter writer called it, dog poop.
Oh, God.
So I won't read you the whole letter, but while walking my own dogs several times per day, I often notice at least 4 to 6 dog poops left behind by other dog owners on the sidewalk, or other times next to the sidewalk or in a neighbor's front yard. Although picking up after other people's dogs has been a growing source of frustration for me, I respect my neighbors and community, so I pick it up if I have a good supply of bags in my pocket. Earlier this afternoon, I picked up 9 additional dog poops. A box of 120 dog waste bags used to last me a month, but over the past year, they're now lasting me about a week due to this ongoing issue. I shouldn't have to bear the cost of irresponsible dog owners. It's maddening and not fair, and I'm becoming resentful. There was somewhere earlier, I think I didn't read it. Said she used to run across one every now and then, but now she's running across multiple ones every time she goes out. And it's her opinion that the problem is getting a lot worse. So I appreciate any assistance you can offer to help resolve the issue. I love being part of this community and try my best to be a valuable member, even if it means picking up after someone else's dog. I'm hoping you can lessen these occurrences, et cetera, et cetera. Keep our community beautiful for all of us to enjoy and be proud of. I looked into this, and we used to have a local law requiring immediate removal of waste from public or private property by the animal's owner, but it was enforced by the animal control officer, and it was part of the regulations about the animal control officer that we eliminated when we turned the animal control function over to the towns. So that is no longer in our law.
Do they have
I'm
it?
sympathetic. Yeah, it's in the town of Milton's law. I checked that, and I advised this person to call the town of Milton's animal control, and was told that their animal control officer had recently resigned and they're trying to find a replacement. It's not clear to me what their animal control officer would be able to do anyway, because the chances of his or her seeing the incident actually happen are slim to none.
Yeah.
So, but right now, for example, if we had a law on the books saying what the old one said, but not making the animal control officer responsible, then people could complain to the police department and the police department could issue tickets for breaking the law or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
right now we really have nothing that
It-
addresses it.
It's a tough one because the police aren't gonna catch them doing it either. You know,
Is it,
No,
would
No.
it make sense maybe to post some signs saying there's a local law, you know, that you need to pick up your
Dog waste.
feces, dog waste. You know, put them, you know, sprinkle them throughout town.
Well,
Um,
first we have to have the law.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
first we have the law, but
sign.
yeah, the next
Fine.
step would be maybe signage rather than, because obviously enforcement, that would be very difficult, but you know, as a preventative measure, maybe have some signage making people aware there is a local law.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is the consensus that you want to go forward with the local law?
absolutely.
Yes,
I do. Yep.
All right, then I will, for like the fourth time tonight, I'll ask our attorney to do something. However, I'm sure you'll find that in large part, the language that was used previously in the animal control officer law would be applicable. The question of penalty is something that we'll have to consider.
And
And
you can just add that to your fee schedule.
Yes, one more fee.
Penalty fee schedule amendment.
okay,
Larry, what neighborhood are we talking here?
hours.
Huh,
Actually, I've noticed a few, but not that much on my trail, but I think they mentioned Malta Avenue as being one
Well,
of the,
the introductory paragraph of this asks the clerk to refer this to me, and it might be helpful if she mentioned that this is as a courtesy to her for picking up a minimum of 6 random dog poops on his sidewalk over the past few months. So,
mhm.
What I've noticed in the Ballston Ave and Tedisco Trail area is people put the poop in a bag and then just leave the bag on
Yeah.
the side of the sidewalk. It's like, put it, throw it out. They've thrown it under bushes in my yard. It's I've noticed an increase in that.
yeah. I mean, one thing to do is to put a doggy bag waste, receptacle, which they do at dog parks, but then that adds to, the garbage pickup. You gotta empty that.
Yeah, you
But,
gotta put- you gotta- yeah,
Yeah.
they have the bags plus the receptacle there. I don't know if that, would be worth looking at and would
You know,
encourage.
whose responsibility is that to clean those?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
yeah.
Somebody's gotta empty them out and dispose of it, which I don't think
DPW does that.
they would do that, but I think somehow we've got to get a message to folks that they've got to be responsible,
Mhm, mhm.
that it's not being very neighborly to do that.
Well, it is true. If you make things convenient for people, then they become a little more responsible. I don't know what the expense is of having another couple garbage sites. Whether it's around Tedisco Trail or off a street somewhere. Ballston Ave would be prime. Lots of people walk their dogs up and down this road. But that would help, is you make it easy for them to comply, even though they should have complied.
All right. Thank you very much. First step is the local law, which we will review soon. Next item on the agenda.
Mayor, are you going to vote on the local laws during this section, or are you going to do it later? The ones we had.
Under other business.
Got
is
it.
where I put it. Next item is the consent agenda, which has only one item on it this month, or this meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Fitzpatrick. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by trustee Cormos. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion carries. That brings us to trustee liaison reports. Does any trustee have a report for us tonight?
Just a brief one. We're getting feedback, and we encouraged folks to give feedback on the Wiswall concept plan. That was a request by this board when it was presented a few months ago to get feedback. And they sent it to parkandtree@villageofballstonspa.org is the email address, and please send your comments, feedback on the Wiswall Park plan. And also, we've gotten some press recently on the website for the pedestrian and bicycle master plan, which has an interactive map where people can put a dot on the map and make a comment about the crossing or the sidewalks or any other condition. So we encourage people to go on that website. You can find the link from the village front page. It has the link directly to the project website.
Okay, thank you. Any other trustee reports? That brings us to other business. Could I have a motion to approve local law number 3 of 2021?
I'll make that motion.
That was trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Yes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Baskin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Local law, all opposed say nay. Local law number 3 is approved. Could I have a motion to approve local law number 4 of 2021?
I'll make
that.
I'll make
Go
the
ahead.
motion.
Motion by trustee Fitzpatrick. Trustee Fitzpatrick was second by trustee Baskin.
no.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
That'll
Any
work.
discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That law is approved. Could I have a motion to approve local law number 5 of 2021?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Cormos. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Raymond. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Local law number 5 is approved. Could I have a motion to approve local law number 6 of 2021?
I'll move. Make the
Motion by trustee Baskin, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Local law number 6 is approved. Let's see, it's 8:33 right now, and I do want to leave a few minutes for public comment, and I would dearly love to adjourn by 9. But I asked the board tonight to bring in a list of issues they wanted to discuss on the budget. And I did that primarily so that the treasurer would have a list of things to make sure she was ready to talk about next week. But if there's quick and easy stuff that people have that can be answered in just a few words or so, we can try to answer that tonight. And if there are other issues that are more complex, then the treasurer will make a list of them and be prepared to discuss them next week. So is there anybody who wanted to bring up items concerning the budget that you would like to discuss further?
Would it be possible for, instead of taking up the time this meeting, for Julia to, get back to us with, those answers that, we had specific, why, what's this due to, what's that due to, et cetera.
I saw her working on those today very diligently.
Yeah.
So you will get those answers.
Yeah, so I don't think we should take.
So
up-
if you already sent it to her, then you're taken care of. But if there's anything else that anybody wants to raise that hasn't already been brought up, I'd appreciate your letting us know now so the treasurer can be prepared.
Well, I think,
Okay.
how I and some of the other trustees, sort of provided the list to her. And then the other items are, basically funding items, where, for example, is there a line item in there for an annual audit? For training, those sorts of things. The answer may be it's in the budget, but we don't know it's in the budget because we've got just the account numbers. So I think it would be better to get all of those answers first. And then if there are remaining answers, we'll deal with them next week. Different issues where one of us says we should spend less for this or we should spend more for that. And have that discussion at a dedicated session next week. That's just my suggestion.
Yeah, I would think that if we were going to hammer out details next Monday, but I think Larry's intent was if there was any easy to answer questions, just like the one you posed. But I mean, I think I'm pretty well covered other than going into the specifics, which we'll do next Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that the treasurer was prepared next Monday and that no significant questions were raised that she didn't anticipate or didn't know anything about and wasn't prepared to answer. So that was that was the only motivation. So if the emails that we've gotten already contain people's concerns, then that's fine and we're good for next week. Thank you very much.
Well, I have a couple of things that I'm halfway through my email, but that I will get to Julia tomorrow morning, but there's nothing that's really significant that needs to be discussed now. Like one of
Great.
mine was about the audit, so it's there. I just want to know where in the soup it is. Okay, stuff like that. Thank you.
I sent in a list of questions.
I saw
as
that,
you know, yeah. And
Working on them all.
and I guess I don't know to bring it up here or not. I was wondering if the public hearing would bring it up, but I'd be interested in some funding for the arts. And again, so just a comment here to mention that. So I don't know if that comes here or the next week, but it's not so much a question as an opinion, I guess. I don't know how much, but
Yeah,
It's an easy one to answer. There is $1,000 in the budget for the banner program, and there's $1,000 in the budget for the birdhouse program, and both of those, I believe, are in the celebrations budget, Julia.
That's correct.
Okay.
okay.
So that's not nearly as much as the person in charge of those programs asked for, but there is something in there.
Okay.
And you mentioned for some 4,500 or 5,000 or something, and that was grant money that was raised.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he has been very successful in raising grants and contributions from community businesses.
Right.
And when he does that, then those checks come to the village, and they get added as unanticipated income and then added to his budget line. So when you see that budget line by the end of the year, that reflects everything, not only that the village put in there at the first of the year, but also that was added during the year by grants and donations.
Right.
Yeah, I think answers like we saw no dollars on the arts line, but there are dollars there. Getting those answers first, then we're left with, more substantial issues. to discuss.
Yeah, the arts line is the committee on the arts. They're in charge of the fund for the arts, whereas the birdhouse and banner programs pre-exist the committee on the arts and were funded as a part of a different revenue stream. But thanks for raising that.
All right. Thanks.
Ready to move on to public comment?
Mhm.
Okay. Then I will ask the 17 attendees who are still with us. One person must have had better things to do at some point since the last time I checked this. But those who have sat with us now for an hour and 40 minutes, we'd love to hear anything you'd like to share with us. And I see a hand And I will call on Ray. Ray, I assume is Ray Otten, and please give us your address and correct me if I'm wrong about your name.
Yeah, it's Ray Otten, 16 Millbrook Avenue, Ballston Spa. My comment tonight is in the form of a question, which I would like to send off to Ms. Ferradino if I could. Because I heard you say, Larry, that she's got nothing else to do, so why not? I'm not sure how to address it because this is a comment section and not a question section. But my comment question would be, how do we turn this into a question session? Is there a local law? Is there a procedure? And I don't know, that's why I'm asking, whereby the meetings are, the citizens are not allowed to ask questions of the trustees or the mayor?
I can answer that question, Ray. That's a very simple question. It's just a procedural matter. It's the call of the meeting chair. The meeting chair, it's called public comment in a typical agenda, and the meeting chair can choose to restrict it to that and not accept questions, or the meeting chair can accept questions. It's purely my discretion. So.
Okay, and the same with the time limit, the 3-minute time limit?
Yep.
Okay, so.
And
if
I have
somebody
not
were to-
enforced that limit except that one meeting when we had
Right,
another
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good choice for that one. All right, so the public is allowed to ask questions of the trustees and yourself.
Yeah,
At any,
I mean,
at any meeting.
there may be that we weren't prepared to answer that tonight and we'll have to get back to you. But if it's
Right.
something that we know, we're probably happy to tell you right there on the spot.
Okay, all right, and again, the same with the time limit, that's flexible.
Yep.
Okay, well, that answers my 2 comments. for
Okay.
tonight. Thank you, and look at that, Stephanie, you didn't have to do anything more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. I'll now recognize Mandy Ryder. Please give us your name and address. Oh, you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. 9 Heritage Place, Ballston Spa. This will be literally under 60 seconds. Just 2 things quickly. Larry, as a member of the Board of Directors of Rebuilding Together, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony last week when they were renaming the store. Your presence was noted and commented on by many, and by many after it was all over. And your presence was very, very much appreciated. So thank you for coming to the ribbon cutting. Oh, can you hear me?
Thank you for saying that.
Okay, and just
Yes,
one more
thank you very
comment, and then 30 seconds, and then I'm done. Just a comment, and I don't know if I'm out of place saying this, but after Christine made a comment about people coming in to read the meters and how some people were uncomfortable having them come into their home. And I thought Christine had an excellent point. And I'm not a psychologist, but if someone is on the spectrum, tactile defensive, has OCD or PTSD or early onset dementia, there is no way that person is going to allow someone to come into their home. So hopefully, without getting into anyone's personal history, if there's anyone that refuses someone to entry into their home, the village would somehow be able to know that this person is mentally unable to allow someone into their home. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ryder.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Let's see. I see another hand and I'll recognize Ellie Dillon.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, now you're on.
Okay, hi. I just wanted to,
Your address, please?
I forgot. No. Ellie Dillon, 116 Malta Avenue in Ballston Spa. I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to extend an invitation to everybody out there who's listening that the National Bottle Museum is currently hosting its largest art exhibit ever with over 140 pieces of artwork, including 40 regional artists. It is fabulous. And it's a hidden gem in this village. And please come and visit. That's all. Good night.
Thank you very much. I didn't know that. That's helpful. Let's see, I see another hand. Bob Bush.
Hi, Bob Bush, 71 Church Ave. I just have a quick question because Liz, you mentioned about the Wiswall Park proposal plan, the comments, or not comments, but the suggestions or whatever in comments. On the page, Facebook, not Facebook, the website, it says you have until today to comment. Can you still make comments on it, or can you not anymore?
I didn't know if we had, yeah, please make comments. We'll be reviewing, the comments at our next Park and Tree Board meeting, which is coming up. I think we had, wanted to keep it not open forever, but I don't see any problem. If you have comments, please go on and, just send an email to parkandtree@villageofballstonspa.org. And I'll check when our next Park and Tree Board meeting is. And of course, you're welcome to come to Park and Tree is meeting on the 20th. We would probably like to get the comments by the 20th so we can look at them and see what the general feeling is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. And I see one more hand, Marilyn Stevenson.
Hi, good evening. I just quickly wanted to mention, oh, I'm sorry, address is 45 West High Street. Sorry.
Thank you.
I just quickly wanted to mention that the Ballston Spa House and Garden Club is having their 11th annual geranium and plant sale. It's a pre-order sale. We sell geraniums in many different colors, wave petunias, and green sweet potato vines. If there was a way other than our Facebook page to get the word out, we'd appreciate it if the village could let people know the plant materials are available for a very inexpensive amount of money. Our deadline is Friday, May 7th, so there is still time to order plants, but it's an opportunity for village residents to affordably improve the greenness of the village. And we're celebrating our 66th anniversary this year. So hopefully we can get more people to, green up the village. Thank you.
Thanks for letting us know that. I really appreciate it. And if you would put that in a note or an email, do you have access to email?
Yes, and I can send the press release that I have and the order forms and the posters just to get people to be aware of what's available. Great, thank you.
Oh, that'd be great. If you would send those to Village Clerk, that's all one word, Village Clerk at Village of Ballston Spa, again, all one word, Village of Ballston Spa.org. We'd be happy to try to help disseminate them.
Great, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Stevenson. Let's see, I see one more hand. And I will recognize Gina Morosi. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane, Ballston Spa. I have a question regarding the closing of Front Street. Has the fire department, EMS, and police been consulted about this?
Yes, we consulted them last year and we got the specifications and they signed off on how wide the lanes had to be and what kind of barriers there could be and all of that. So if we change anything, we'll once again ask them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, this thing says there's one more hand up, but I think it's still Gina's. Yes, okay. All right, I don't see any other hands. So thank you very much to the 18 people who attended tonight and to the 6 who spoke in public comment. We appreciate that as always. And we encourage you to come back again next week to hear the discussion about the budget, and the week after that for our second monthly meeting. So it's a busy month, but we appreciate your attendance. We appreciate your interest, and we appreciate your knowing what's going on so that you can tell all your neighbors what's happening in the village. At this time, I would ask for a motion that vouchers number 21-01290 to 21-001819 be audited and the meeting adjourned. Could I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Fitzpatrick. For a minute, I thought nobody wanted to go home.
You're home.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Raymond. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you very much for your help tonight. I think we made good progress on a variety of things, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Good night.